Welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't African, the talk, think show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so called African American didn't find his way to America stuck in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous one, and tonight we're here with Rick Moon and we're going to be discussing House Resolution 1242, Public Law 115 102. This is something that people who go by the moniker African American or Black or Negro, whatever in the country, these are the things that we have to pay attention to because these are the things that your government officials, the people who you elect, the people who you love, the people who you send Jesus to bless and blah, 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 blah. These are the people that make up laws for you to put you in these jails, to put you in these concentration camps, or whatever plans they have. These are the plans that are on the board. So who's going to bring this to our attention tonight? None other than the incomparable Rick Moon. What's going on, brother?
Hey, how's it going? How's it going, Indigenous one? How's America doing out there? Hadn't been on in a while. It's good to be on here tonight and discuss this law or act or whatever you may want to call it. And before I get started, I wanted to give a shout out to uh, to Ambassador Radine. She actually talked about this very subject about 2 weeks ago, and I felt, by listening to her, and I felt that it was very important that I try to bring it to our group, and let y'all know what's going on behind your back. So, as I said again, thanks for dying. And she was very happy when I told her that I wanted to do it. So, shout out to her. Uh, what I was gonna do, I was just gonna read the thing and then just go back and explain it. But this is not me. I, so I'm not gonna do it that way. I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna start and just go through it and then explain while I go through, wherever I do on this act. And like Indigenous one said earlier, we're going to be talking about HR 1242, 400 years of African American History Commission Act, or Public Law 115-102. This was enacted. This law was enacted uh, on January 2018. Is in effect right now. So as we get into it, I'm gonna read something and then I'll explain, what it's talking about or whatever, or if Buck want to come in and say something, he can just come in too. Anyway, let's get this started. To establish the 400 years of African American History Commission and for other purposes. Let me repeat that. And like I said, this is the 400 years of African American History Commission Act. Okay. What it is an act to establish the 400 years of African American History Commission and for other purposes. Now let's stop right there. What is other purposes? Do you know
I
what
have
other
my
purposes is, Buck?
no, but I have my hand up. This is the question I have.
Go ahead.
This is the question I have. And this is what I'm saying. This is why we can't be so fucking stupid all the time. The term African American wasn't used 400 years ago. So how are they going to take, and this is how they lump you together and make you all one people so they can do whatever they have planned. And we're going to get to what they have planned later on in the program. But 400 years ago, the term African American wasn't even used. So you've been seeing over these past few years how they've been calling people like Frederick Douglass African American, people back in history when the term wasn't even used, to try to lump you together. And being that you haven't said nothing, being that you've been broadcasting this term all over the world to other people, not claiming who you are, not telling who your grandmother was, other people around the world have picked up this term. They know what it means. You don't. And so now they're lumping you together in a term that wasn't even invented until later, late in the 20th century. This is what we better be paying attention to. So that was what my hand up was about, Rick. How they gonna label you in a term that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even, in use 400 years ago?
That's right. That's right. And like I said, what is this? What is this other purposes? I mean, what does that mean? That could be anything. That can
No,
be anything.
say what it is. I
So
mean,
so what?
say what it is, man.
No, that's all it says. It just say other. We
No,
don't
no,
know.
no,
I
no.
don't know
We know
what
what
other
it. I
purposes it.
no.
It could be.
What do you think it is?
Well, I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to that to what I think it is as I go through.
Okay.
I'll get to that. I just want to express the other purposes part. I mean, because that could, like I said, that could be anything. That could be well, I'll give you an example. Other purposes, it could be for like maybe bringing in troops if need be, or maybe vaccinating everybody with something that might not, it could be anything,
Yeah,
you
it's an
know.
ambiguous term that they can
So
use it for anything they need to use it for.
right, correct. That is exactly what it's for. But we need to be aware of stuff like this. You have to, and I've been saying this for a long time, that we have to watch what we read, and we have to, know, because stuff like this could very well, just not even come to mind. So that's why you have to read it very carefully. Okay, let me go on. Okay, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled. United States of America, not America. As a matter of fact, there is no mention of America in this whole law or act, whatever you want to call it. There is no mention of America in this thing. It says United States of America, so that applies to the United States. So you have to be aware of stuff like that. Okay, now this is section two is the definition. Okay, number one, commemoration. The term commemoration means the commemoration of the 400th anniversary of the arrival of Africans in the English colonies at Port Comfort, Virginia in 1619. in 1619. Read that again. The term commemoration means the commemoration of the 400th anniversary of the arrival of Africans in the English colonies at Point Comfort, Virginia in 1619. So what they're saying is that Africans started to come here in 1619, which is not true. Which is not true. Uh, as a matter of fact, that's 1619. That's more around the time that the so-called white slaves were coming here. That was about at that time, 1619. It was much later on, and as a matter of fact, it wasn't very much uh, trade between Africans here in this part of North America anyway. Wasn't much, and if it was any Africans that were coming over here, they were actually going from Africa to Europe and then to over here. They were not coming straight from Africa over here to America. That's they weren't doing that. So that's we I said at the beginning that we're going to show how this whole act is a fraud. It's artificial. And there's one of your things. Another thing like Buck mentioned about the word African American. That we was not known as that during that time. Uh, then we got another definition is commission. The term commission means the 400 years of African American History Commission established by Section 3A, in which I'll get into Section 3A later. Uh, then we have secretary. The term secretary means the Secretary of the Interior. Now let's talk a little bit about the Secretary of Interior. The Secretary of the Interior right now, see, I got it here somewhere. This guy's name. Let's see. Man, I got his name
So
here
while you're looking for that, let
somewhere.
me say something. You got a cat in the group named Trey Wilson, and I just want to share something with you, brother. So
Right.
here's two things that you're saying that I really want you to think about, because a lot of times we read what other people write and we think that since they said it, we should follow it. That ain't the way it goes. We should be reading and writing a history for ourselves that leads us to a certain place, not taking other people's history, what other people say in their language, because we'll end up doing what they want us to do. You said a lot of the issues we are facing are international issues that must be solved in the international court system. Yeah, that sounds good, but when the rest of the world is in your country making money off of you, and then you go to an international court asking them to plead for your well-being, it ain't gonna happen. And we should know that by now. Then another thing you say, we're supposed to be put in the decolonization list in 1960. Who was supposed to put us there? That's what I mean. We always look for other people to do stuff for us. And then we go along with it like and be waiting for it to happen. It ain't gonna happen, dude. This is why I'm saying you have to start thinking for yourself. You have to start writing your history for yourself. You have to come up with languages and ways to communicate with each other like other so other people cannot understand you like they do. We look like idiots saying stuff that other people say and trying to make it work for us. It ain't gonna happen.
All right. Okay. So The third definition is secretary. The term secretary means the sounds of name. His name is David Bernhardt. He is the right now the Secretary of the Interior right now. And one thing about that title, Secretary of Interior, once upon a time, the Secretary of the Interior was called the Secretary of War. So I want y'all to remember that once upon a time, the Secretary of the Interior was called the Secretary of War. So this is the person uh, that's over this commission. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about it's the establishment. This is section 3. Okay, in general, and I ain't gonna spend too much time on this, but it's just some stuff that I'm gonna say. In general, there is established a commission to be known as the 400 Years of African American History Commission. Be the membership composition. The commission shall be comprised of 15 members, of whom 3 members shall be appointed by the secretary. That's secretary, meaning the secretary of the interior or secretary of war. Um, After considering recommendation of governors, including the governor of Virginia, 6 members shall be appointed by the secretary after considering recommendations of civil rights organizations and historical organizations. You know, like civil rights. You know, like the NAACP, historical organizations like the Smithsonian, people like that. Okay, 1 member shall be an employee of the National Park Service having experience relative to the historical and cultural related to the commemoration to be appointed by the secretary. Okay, so National Park Service. So uh, since we have the National Park Service involved, that tells us that anytime you got them involved, that we're talking about Earth. We're talking about Earth, y'all. That's why he's on this panel. Okay. 2 members shall be appointed by the secretary after considering the recommendation of the secretary of the Smithsonian Institute. Okay. And 3 members shall be individuals who have an interest in support for and expertise appropriate to the commemoration appointed by the secretary after considering recommendations of the members of Congress. Okay. So then it gets into time period, time of appointment. Each appointment of an initial member of the commission shall be made before the expiration date of the 120-day period beginning at the date of enactment of this act. And what that means by the 120 days before the enactment of that, it was this law was enacted in January, I mean 8th, 2018. So they were have a meeting right after they appointed everyone in that 120-day period. Okay, terms, vacancies. I ain't gonna get too much into that. A member commission shall be appointed for the life of the commissioner. So these people that they pick there for the life of this commission, however long it lasts. Okay, now we're gonna get into the duties. Okay, the commission shall plan, develop, and carry out programs and activities throughout the United States. Plan, develop, and carry out programs and activities throughout the United States. So this commission, their duty is to come up with all these different activities and things to be going on during this commission. Okay, so plan, develop, and carry out programs and activities throughout the United States appropriate for the commemoration and to recognize and highlight the resilience and contributions of African Americans since 1619. And there we are again. Here we are again, African Americans in 1619. There was no African Americans in 1619. There was no United States in 1619. So this is an artificial act that they're getting ready to carry out on us. And we need to be aware of this and do what it takes necessary to combat this. Okay, to acknowledge the impact that slavery and laws enforced racial discrimination had on the United States. So it's your old slavery story again. And to educate the public about the arrival of Africans in the United States and the contributions of African Americans to the United States. So they're gonna, what they're saying is they're gonna put this in the schools and they're gonna put it out everywhere for everyone in the public about this. They're gonna drill this into us. They're gonna drill that arrival of Africans in the United States and the contributions of African Americans to the United States. They're gonna drill this in our head until we accept it. And like I said, later on, we're going to talk about what we accepting and what's going to happen or what could happen anyway. Okay. Encourage. There's another word, encourage. That means to convince or whatever. To encourage civic, patriotic, historical, educational, artistic, religious, economic, and other organizations throughout the United States to organize and participate in anniversary activities to expand understanding and appreciation of the significance of the arrivals of Africans in the United States and the contributions of African Americans to the United States. So there we are again, and and you can see the choice of artificial words they decide to use, like civic, patriotic, historical, educational, religious, you know, economic, all of these old boule words, I call them. Okay, they're also going to provide technical assistance to states, localities, and nonprofit organizations to further the commemoration. So, so they're gonna go out to all the states, all these places, and provide any assistance that these organizations need to ensure that this commemoration goes off as planned. Okay, coordinate and facilitate for the interpretation of the arrival of Africans in the United States and the contributions of African Americans to the United States. Okay, ensure, another one of those words, ensure that the commemoration provides a lasting legacy, meaning that it's you're brainwashed forever, and long-term public benefit by assisting in the development of appropriate programs. So like I said, they're gonna put this in the schools. They're gonna put this on TV. They're gonna put this everywhere. They're gonna condone all of this artificial activities that's going on in the in this country, and we're just sitting there and just looking. But tonight you're gonna know a little bit about what's going on. Hopefully before this night is over with. Okay, help ensure that the observances of the commemoration are inclusive and appropriately recognize the experiences and heritage to all individuals present at the arrival of Africans in the United States. Wow. That's that ensure again. Ensure that everything that they plan on turning around is recognized by everyone that was present at the arrival of Africans in the United States. Okay. Now we go to section 4. I ain't gonna spend too much on this. It's just about the meetings. Initial meeting no later than 30 days after the date on which all the members have been appointed, which is that 120 days. The commission shall hold the initial meeting of the commission, and they shall meet at least 3 times a year, or at the call of the chairperson or the majority of the members of the commission, which goes back to that other purposes. We might come up with something that we need to implement that we didn't have in there at first. So we need to call a meeting for that. And that's pretty much section 4. Section 5, I don't want to spend too much on this either, but I'll talk about it a little bit. You got the gifts. The commission may solicit, accept, use, or dispose of gift, bequests, or devices of money and or other property for aiding or facilitating the work of the commission. So what they're saying is they're going to they can accept anything, or they could solicit anything or dispose, of anything that that goes for what the commission mission is. They can do all that. Procurement in general, the commission may procure supplies, services, and property, and make or enter into contracts, leases, or other legal agreements to carry out this act, except that a contract, lease, or other legal agreement made or entered by the commission shall not extend beyond the date of termination of the commission. Limitations. The commission may not purchase real property. And what they mean by real property is stuff like buildings, uh, the environment, you know, stuff that, you just can't just up and move that quick. Okay. The postal services, the commission may use the United States mails in the same manner under the same conditions as other agencies of the federal government. Grants and technical assistance, the commission may provide grants in amount not to exceed $20,000 per grant to communities and nonprofit organizations for use in developing programs to assist with the commemoration. Provide grants to research and scholarly organizations to research, publish, or distribute information relating to the arrivals of Africans in the United States, and provide technical assistance to states, localities, and nonprofit organizations to further the commemoration. So I mean, this is well planned out. I mean, they got a lot of stuff that they on their plate, and they have a time limit also, as we'll find out later, when all this stuff is going to be done and implemented. Okay, uh, so Section 6 is really a bunch of nothing. I didn't even. It was nothing that we needed pertain. It was about mainly about pay and to all the members and stuff like that. I didn't think that was that important, so I just skipped it. Okay, we go to Section 7, plans and reports. Strategic plan. The commission shall prepare a strategic plan for the activities of the commission carried out under this act. Final report. No later than July 1, 2020, the commission shall complete and submit to Congress a final report that contains a summary of the activities of the commission, a final accounting of funds received and expended by the commission, and the findings and recommendations of the commission. So this commission has a expiration date of July 1, 2020. Or at least they have to, their final report has to be in by July 1, 2020. Okay, go to Section 8 and termination of commission. Date of termination. The commission shall terminate on July 1, 2020. So that's in the commission. Uh, we was also talking earlier about or you probably saw in the when we advertised for this show that we was going to discuss timing, and this date of termination of this commission on July 1, 2020. That's kind of, ain't that around the same time the census comes out? Won't the census be around out sometime around that time, But
Yes, sir.
So I find that very, very, very strange, that they did all this around the census. Okay,
I don't.
transfer.
No, it's not strange. They're doing. Listen. Okay, so you're saying this is 400 years. So this is
Right,
a 400-year plan.
right,
See, they can't do it all because, see, we're still the majority of people in this country. And that's what I mean about us always arguing and bickering and using other people's thoughts and words to put on ourselves. What you normally do is you speed up our demise. It's really hard to get the Negro to understand this.
right,
So while we're bickering and arguing and being stupid, other people are setting up plans for your demise. And you
right,
see it. Because, like you just said, you just put it together. Isn't that the same time of the census? They're erasing you. And we just, nigga, fuck you, nigga. I'm living my good life. Ain't going back and forth with you, nigga. That's where we at. These are the males. This is we don't even get it, dude.
yeah. Well,
You
I
know,
tell you,
and I'm not, and trust me, I'm not saying everybody because there's obvious some people who do get it, and we thank you guys for listening. But when I see the majority of brothers, and they don't have to be poor, they could be lawyers, doctors, politicians, they some of the dumbest people we got. And then they get they back up by the minions who love and follow them, who give them support, who support them, like ministers. They get supported all the time by the people who they dog out. And
Yeah.
this is what, and I would like to know what you're saying, Rick, is how this is this information being put out in churches on Sunday? Because if you can't see that they're setting you up, we already know they're taking your organs. We already know they're using your babies for stem cells. This is how many of it, this is how many of us it is. You're not 13% of the population. You're just dumb enough to believe that. Nowhere, nowhere in the world are indigenous people the minority. Negroes don't understand that. That's just a fact. So what this brother is telling you guys tonight, pass it on. Tell these youth this stuff. Tell these people that's going to get abortions this stuff. These people are trying to wipe you out. And you just on the regular, that coon shit that you do, it's really getting old. Especially brothers doing it. Yeah. I'm sorry,
Right.
Rick.
So that's all right. Hey, okay. Uh, on July 1, 2020, transfer of documents materials before the date of termination specified in subsection A, the Commission shall transfer all documents and materials of the Commission to the National Archives or other appropriate federal entity. Section 9, expenditure of the Commission. All expenditures of the Commission shall be made solely from donated funds. So that is basically what this law is talking about. That's basically what it is. There was a couple other things that I was going to say too. Like there's a couple of things that we should know. Like as far as these words and names. You remember I was saying earlier that there was no mention of the word America. So and then there's other words that it's other things that we also should know. Uh, Number one, we was talking about, like when we was talking about the membership, how one of the guys had to be a member of the Park Service. Where the Park Service is what the Park Service is, and all these Park Service all over the country and stuff is really Earth that's used by that Earth not used by the United States that belong to the people of America. So those parks and stuff that's our Earth. It belongs to us, and they're just sitting on it.
Rick, can you
And
say that again? Because I think that's something that we really need to bang through. Say that one more time, because when it comes to Earth, it's something that we don't really think about and talk about.
right, uh, the Park Service, Earth not used by the United States that belongs to the people of America, and we use the term Earth because that's Earth is what's gonna be profitable for us, not land. Land is all of this artificial stuff that they've built on, like these streets, these buildings, how they covering up the earth, and all that stuff. That is not that's not Earth. That's land, and that's what most people are concerned with. They're concerned with land and not Earth. And there's going to be and one of the things that we also said we was going to talk about, is how it could affect us also. And one way it could affect us. You know, we we they just take everything from us, and what really belongs to us we can't even use either. A couple of more things that I want to say is it's a couple of terms like one is like Amerindian. The word Amerindian. When you see the word Amerindian, they're talking about us. They're talking about America. They're talking about the soil of America, our people. Okay, if you hear them say American Indian, American Indian are people who are under the jurisdiction of Americans, who are Europeans who came over to establish the United States. So there's a difference. The Amerindian is the indigenous one, and the American Indian is these Siberian clowns that's under jurisdiction of the Europeans who established the United States. So when y'all see those words, it's a good thing to know, how it's being, what it means, and how it's being used. And again, like I say, in this whole act, there was no mention of America. It mentioned United States of America one time, but outside of that, everything was United States. And like we say, if you're taking this back 400 years, there was no such place as the United States. So there's also because that's about all. Unless somebody got questions or something that you want to cover that we ain't cover. But I do have a little list, and I'm gonna tell y'all, I have my little listing of the guy who proposed this bill was like a senator in Virginia. I think his name was Scott Brooks, or something like that. I forgot. But anyway, I just wanted to let y'all know who who else is making these rules and making these laws and stuff, and who's that we think that is especially us people that like to vote. Us people like to vote. I'm gonna give you a couple of your representatives that co-sponsored this bill that's supposedly black or part of the Black Caucus. And these were some of the people that co-sponsored this bill. So it's not just them, it's our own is out to get us too. And I'll give you some of these representatives that were co-sponsors of this HR 1242. So you would know who to go cuss out and who not to vote for the next time you hit the polls. We shouldn't vote at all, if you ask me. But you got Donald McEachin. He's a Democrat representative from Virginia. Cedric L. Richmond, Democrat, Louisiana. My homie, G.K. Butterfield, Democrat of North Carolina. Republican Elijah E. Cummings, Democrat, Maryland. Matter of fact, all of them Democrat. Uh, Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton of Washington, D.C. John Lewis. I know all you people in Georgia heard of him. Robin L. Kelly, Democrat, Illinois. Gwen Moore, Democrat, Wisconsin. Dwight Evans, Pennsylvania. Danny K. Davis, Illinois. Val Butler Demings, Florida. Al Green, and not the singer, Texas. Joyce Beatty, Ohio. Alcee L. Hastings, Florida. Buck, one of your homies. I'm sure you know her, Barbara Lee, California. Emmanuel Cleaver, Missouri. All you Texas folks, I know y'all know Sheila Jackson Lee. Okay, Anthony G. Brown of Maryland. Brenda L. Lawrence of Michigan. Gregory W. Meeks, New York. Al Lawson Jr., Florida. Bonnie Watson Coleman, New Jersey. And we got a couple of coons. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call them. I didn't mean to embarrass raccoons like that. I mean a couple of Boulay members that are no longer in office, but co-sponsored that bill was our good old friend up in Michigan, John Conyers. I'm sure everybody know about that clown. Keith Ellison, Democrat, Minnesota, and Donald M. Payne Jr., Democrat, New Jersey. Those three Boulay members are no longer in office, and so these are some of the people who are helping this alien to destroy us, to try to destroy us. And so when y'all hit the polls next year or next election or whatever, have that in mind, or don't go to the polls. Period. Also, I was gonna I'll let you know. You were talking earlier about who's involved with this thing. Well, I got that for you too. The members of the 400 Years of African American History Commission. And as you will see, the same. It is no surprise who these people are. Okay, we got Mr. Terry Brown. He's the superintendent of Fort Monroe National Monument National Park Service, Virginia. So he's in the Park Service. We got Ronnie G. Bunch III, founding director of the Smithsonian Natural Museum of African American History and Culture. African American History and Culture, not American heritage and culture. Okay, you got Ron Carson, founder of Appalachian African American Cultural Center, CEO, and President Carson Black Lung Centers in Pennington Gap, Virginia. And there's your token white boy. You know that it had to be one of them on there. You do not have a commission without an alien on it. Okay, you got Kenya M. Cox, president of Kansas State Conference of NAACP, that Jewish organization. Executive director of Kansas African American Affairs Commission, officer of governor of Topeka, Kansas. So she's in the politics too.
I have
Oh,
I have a question.
go
How
ahead.
can all these people make up legislation, laws, make up your change your identity, make up whatever identity they want and affix it to you, and you have no say so? These are the people you name, and these are these Black Caucus people you're naming. These are all these politicians. How can all these people, all these foreigners come up and make up names and titles and make up instructions on how you should live your life? Can you? Donald Trump is a recent immigrant. His
Correct.
mama, his mama was an immigrant.
Correct.
And her son is telling your great great grandmama kids what to do.
Correct.
So, so you can see my disgust with the African American community. This is how they live their lives, and they try to act like they grown ass men and women doing shit.
Right. Well, but all it is, I think is mainly, I think it's a lot got to do with fear too. I mean, they we act like we scared to do something, man, about it. You know,
Well,
that's how it seemed to me.
let me tell you a little indigenous fact for everybody that's listening. And you can go back and check your family records and see if this is not true. Your people believe that when you die, your soul just comes back to complete the mission that it was set out to do anyway.
That's
So
correct.
whatever you do here, you're going to come back to it in another life. It's not no escaping it. So what I would suggest to everybody, because this shit's been going on too long, you start writing stuff and you start putting stuff in motion that you pass down to the children so they can take it and grow with it so you can be born right back into what you started. You just keep doing the shit that somebody told you 200 and 300 years ago, and we keep on repeating it, and it don't work. Sorry, Rick.
Oh, that's right. Because oh yeah, you definitely correct because they're gonna send you back, and you're gonna and if you don't get it right, they're gonna send you back again, and if you don't get it right, they're gonna send you back again. So what he's telling you, yeah, it's definitely correct. Let me finish this out this little.
Let me give a quick example of that so they can really see it in real time. Okay, so we always talk about this cat named Malcolm X. So remember when this brother got cut down, he was cut down when he was 39 years old. But when he was cut down, he was still pushing that Islam stuff. So let's say he came back 10 years later, 20 years later. So how far has Islam advanced since he's been gone? Matter of fact, that shit is regressed. You're going to take a religion from a Pakistani person. This is who far Muhammad was. A
Yeah.
Pakistani. You're going to take that religion and spread it all throughout your community, infect your community with it, and wonder why you twist it. This is the dumb shit we be doing, and try to pat ourselves on the back like we doing something. So that's where he'll be. That's where we'll all be. What you do, what goes around comes around. I know you heard of that. So that's what I'm saying. We can't be on this dumb shit like we always on. Your thinking has to move. You've never seen an ant walk backwards. Never. And that's what you see us doing. So all I'm saying is, better stand out in that sun, get that light, let it hit your pineal gland, so you can start coming up with some abstract thought and some abstract ideas that you can pass down to the children that they can grow, that you can come back into. Because everything that you see Rick reading, if you go back, if you can just go back to the dictionary, the 1828 definition of the dictionary. Throw that in there. This dude is giving you bomb information. I would suggest you take it and pass it on. Sorry, Rick.
Oh, that's okay. Uh, I just got a couple more names to read, and then we can talk about how this affects us, or how can it affect us. Uh, okay, we got, oh, check this out. Prophet N. and Nuwayu Cox, the minister and founder of Reconciliation Ministry Without Walls, community advocate and activist from Wichita, Kansas. So here comes the clergy. Dr. Rex M. Ellis, Associate Director for Cultural Affairs, Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, member of the Board of Trustees, Fort Monroe Authority, Williamsburg, Virginia. Ted T. Ellis, artist and cultural historian, art ambassador, National Juneteenth Organization, Friendswood, Texas. Glenn M. Freeman, President, Omaha Chapter of Freedom's Foundation at Valley Forge, a patriotic civic organization, a retired Master Sergeant in the Air Force. Chief Master Sergeant, that is. Wow. Can't go no higher than that enlisted. Dr. Joseph L. Green Jr., pastor and co-founder of Antioch Assembly founder and CEO, Josiah Generation Ministries, founder of the 2019 movement, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Hannibal B. Johnson, Esquire, attorney, so one of the Queensmen, author, college professor, and independent consultant member of 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Kenneth S. Johnson, President, CEO of JMI Marketing and Communications Firm, member of Board of Trustees, Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, Richmond, Virginia. Bob Kendrick, President of the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. George Keith Martin, managing partner of McGuire Woods Law Firm, another one of them guys that took the oath. Member, Commemoration Virginia Steering Committee, Richmond, Virginia. Dr. Myron Pope, Vice President, Student Affairs, University of Central Oklahoma, Adjunct Instruction, Department of African American Studies, University of Oklahoma, Advisory Board member for Oklahoma City Public Schools, Edmond, Oklahoma. H. Patrick Swigert, JD, President of Amateur, I guess he's president getting ready to come or leaving or whatever, of Howard University in Washington, D.C. And those are your 15 members, and they have an alternate member, Lewis H. Rogers Jr., Superintendent of Petersburg National Battlefield National Park Service in Virginia. And these are the people that are in charge of making these brainwashing programs for you people, for our people. So let's talk about how this can affect us. Well, we were talking earlier about how it coincides with the census. And one thing I was thinking about was, if when the census go around and all these people are putting down this African American stuff and writing down that your nationality is African American, well, eventually you're going to become a candidate for deportation, because African American is an African who lives in America or born in America or whatever, but he's still African. That's just like example. A German Shepherd is still a German Shepherd, whether he was born in Charlotte or whether he was born in Birmingham. He's still a German Shepherd. Same thing, French Poodle. It don't make no difference. He was born in Massachusetts, still a French Poodle. And they don't work no different with people. If you call yourself African American, you're saying that you're African, that your ancestry goes to Africa, and you are calling yourself a foreigner and an immigrant. So that's one of the things that they could do. That they could initiate. And like Buck said, we're talking about immigrants are the ones initiating this stuff. Donald Trump, his family is immigrants. He's from a family of immigrants. So and they are the ones who implementing this stuff. And we just sit back and act like nothing's happening. Nothing's going wrong. You know, other things, that could happen. They could just start just taking everything. Well, they've already pretty much done that, but they just continue to grab and to just do what they want. Uh, they're taking all your property, all of our earth. So we're not gonna be able to grow our own food. We're not gonna be able to build. Don't have anything to build on. These are all things that can happen if we don't stand up and take back what's rightfully ours. These are some of the things that can happen to us. But what you think?
I think it's already happening. You see, I'm a realist, dude. I get my butt kicked by the earth every day. Cause see, we in here playing. There is no other species on this planet. Every species is connected to the planet. You know what they got the dumb Negro doing? Walking in line on concrete. Totally disconnected from the earth.
That's right.
Don't know anything. It was some shine on earlier in the chat talking about America is Africa. Shut up. This is how you bring confusion to the children. Because when we ask you to explain it, you can't, but you just run your mouth and it brings confusion onto people who are trying to find their way. And you
And,
like to brag how grown and intelligent you are. You're an
and
idiot.
uh,
You talk all that Bible. Come on, dude. You don't have your own spiritual practices. You take words from other people and spit them on your people to confuse them.
yeah,
This is the stuff we do, and wonder how come we're not moving anywhere because it's the masses of people. I mean, who are dumb. There's no other way to put it. You got to call it like it is because for the past 100 years, oh, don't do let the little baby go. They just don't know. They don't know. Yeah, they know.
yeah, and all this
So,
old.
so yeah, man. So I definitely see, um, and one of the things I can see, like you said, if you calling yourself an African, remember this term that they always say: you need to go back to Africa. That's going to become a reality one day. And let
Mm-hmm.
me tell you, and if you don't know, because many of you, many of these Africans are still in America, because many indigenous people support them. They got braid shops all over Birmingham, pulling sisters' hair out of their scalp. Sisters going to get the really you don't teach your daughters how to braid hair so they can take over that industry. When you ask that question, sisters go off. So when you say the effect that it have on our people, you getting taken off the land, removing you from the land itself. How are you going to survive? You won't.
That's right. That's right.
How are you going to survive when you don't have no running water? You don't have no lakes. You don't have no streams. You can't eat fish. They already show tilapia. They already giving you artificial food
Mm-hmm.
because you lost your magic to the planet. You don't even care about the planet. That's the last thing you think about. You'll think about a soda before you think about your relationship to the planet. Right? Right. So don't
Mm-hmm.
be upset and mad. Just be like, well, damn, I got to change. And you better teach these kids something because they're going to come back and eat you up because you ain't taught them shit.
Right.
And they seeing all these foreigners coming over here. One of the college kids, why are these Asian kids? Why are they driving SUV BMWs? Because you take them your money. You take them your money. Stop whining. What hair you got in your head? Who'd you buy it from? Right. Everybody got 100 hair products in their house. Who do they get that from? Why do you support them? Why do you support those that don't support you? And answer the question. If you answer the question, you won't do it no more. Why do you keep supporting those that don't support you?
That's right.
So the
That's right.
effect it's having, Rick, you already, but we've been talking about this for years, man. You already see it.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
And
here's another effect. This is a recent effect that everybody can get into. This cat, Nipsey Hussle. You see that? This dude's a foreigner. This dude's from Ethiopia, Eritrea. His mama from Eritrea. His daddy from Eritrea. They come over and replace you, and you pat him on the back. You cry. You cried more for him than you cry for your sons who get shot by the cops. That's the African American. That's where these shines are, dude. This where they at. Dumb. And these are the people who you call scholars. The perpendicular line goes into circumference, blah, 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 blah.
mhm. Hey, that's what I say. You know, this whole and what even make it worse, this whole act, this whole law that they just made is all artificial.
Right.
It's all artificial. But we don't know that. You know, that's why we having this. That's why we having this talk tonight. That's why I felt the need to talk about this again after Ambassador Redine talked about it, and hopefully uh, somebody else will talk about it. You know, we things we gotta get it right, man. We gotta change. We gotta start change. We gotta change the situation around, man. You know, hey, because like I said, these censuses are coming up. They getting ready to come up, and it's everything is coincide there together. So whatever they get out of their census, that's what they're gonna start deciding what to do with. They're gonna decide what they're gonna do with you based off those census. As a matter of fact, those of you who are going to participate in the 2020 census, there, hey, if there is space there for you to put on there for who you are, do not let anybody else tell you who you are. You describe who you are. Not do not go with all this stuff that you learned in school about slavery and all this stuff. And we come from Africa and all this stuff. Describe who you are. And if you can't, like I said, if you can't think of a if you can't think of a relative that you have in Africa, then how you figure you from Africa? But you can't name not one blood relative over there. If you from Africa, you should be able to name a blood relative over there. I mean, hey, um, I was fortunate enough to know two of my great grandmothers. They both were born in the 1800s. They were born in the late 1800s, 1890s, something like that. And that wasn't too far from when supposedly slavery ended, which 1865. And my grandmother also knew one of my grandmothers talked about her grandmother, which would be my great great grandmother, which she would probably definitely known something about slavery if that's what she went through. And we should have those stories. If we went through that stuff, we are at an age now where we still that stuff should still be kind of fresh on our minds. If we went through all this slavery and uh, traveling thousands of miles on to a place where no currents run from Africa to North America, then you got to deal with all the earthquakes and hurricanes. I mean, not earthquakes, hurricane seasons. And even when it ain't hurricane seasons, you ever been on the Atlantic? Ask some of these Navy dudes that riding these destroyers how these big destroyers. Now these destroyers now they put planes on. Planes can take off on them. Now if they waving in the ocean and they moving up and down, going up and down, what you think a wooden ship gonna do? It probably wouldn't last 2 minutes out in that in that current. But this is what this whole commemoration is about, being to getting us to accept what we aren't and getting us off of our ancestral home. And until we do something about it, they're going to continue to do what the heck they like. And like I said, they doing all of this in the name of a lie. Stuff that's not even true. This is the stuff that they're using to get us, and we don't even know what's hitting us. But that time is coming to whereas, like I said, 2020, that's just next year. So I would imagine all you folks that calling yourselves and putting down African American, I imagine probably not too long after that, maybe 5 years after that, you'll be preparing for deportation. So when you fill out this census, describe who you are, please. Describe who you are. And go to your elders and ask them who you are. They know who you are. And if they can't tell you nothing about Africa, they can't tell you nothing about Africa because they don't know nothing about Africa because they ain't never been to Africa. And they don't know nobody that's been there. So with that, anything you want to say, Buck, because I'm about ready to close.
Yes. When you're when
Hopefully
you
everybody
when you go to the
enjoyed the
census,
program.
I would suggest people be census takers, so you can go out and help your people with that census. The second thing, when you're counting your generations, don't start in the back. Start in the front. Start with your children. Start with your grandchildren. Your grandchildren is one generation. Your children is two generations. You're the third generation. Your mother's the fourth generation. Your grandmother's the fifth generation. Get all that tight. Make sure that's tight. Make sure that's on lock. So your children to have that in your head, then you can get with the other family members and go back further if you need to be. But you need to focus on what's here and what's recent so that can be in our minds. So start with your children, that generation, and teach them because we're really doing a bad job at teaching our children anything. They know how to watch TV. That's it, and sing these dumbass songs.
Right.
And also uh, follow the mother's bloodline and the father's mother's bloodline. That's who you follow. You follow your mother's bloodline and your father's mother's bloodline. Because if you don't, you're going to get all mixed up and you're going to have about 30 people with 30 different types of blood.
Yes, and remember, Christians, they fall up under the man. That's why in the Bible it tells you that two men created a woman. You guys got to check that. See, this is the kind of stuff we keep yapping about and don't even know what we talking about. In the Bible, two men, the Lord God and Adam, create a woman. Two men can create a woman. They can't do it. I know you wish and you hope and all that. It ain't happening like that. So this is how we're getting taken off our square. People come up with these stupid ass stories and we back them up. We with it. You're gonna pay for that. So remember, count your children, your grandchildren. Those are generations that are here and they're moving forward, and they're gonna have to move forward with the information that Rick gave you tonight. So with that, I just want to say good night.